Jamal had $3.47 to his name. His little sister hadn't eaten in 3 days. His grandmother was so weak from hunger she could barely move her hands. They'd been living in their broken-down car for almost a month. This was their last money, their final chance to buy food before they didn't know what would happen next. But when 15-year-old Jamal saw the homeless man shivering outside McDonald's, trembling from hunger and cold, he made a choice that would change his life forever. "Sir," Jamal said, walking toward the stranger, "you look like you haven't eaten in days. Let me buy you something." What Jamal couldn't see was the expensive watch hidden beneath the man's torn sleeve. He had no idea who he was really talking to, and he definitely didn't know that his next decision would transform his family's life in ways he never imagined possible. But first, let me show you how desperate things really were. To understand why Jamal would give away his family's last money to a complete stranger, you need to see what their home looked like that morning. The 1998 Honda Civic sat in the corner of a Walmart parking lot at 5:47 a.m. Inside, 3 people tried to sleep on seats that weren't meant for sleeping. Jamal's grandmother, Gloria, 64 years old, lay curled in the front passenger seat. Her arthritis had gotten so bad she couldn't straighten her fingers anymore. Every movement sent shooting pain through her joints. In the back seat, 8-year-old Destiny slept against Jamal's shoulder. She'd stopped asking when they could go home 3 days ago. Now she just asked why her stomach hurt all the time. Jamal hadn't slept. He'd been doing math in his head all night. Terrible, impossible math. They had exactly $3.47 left. The car was nearly out of gas. Gloria needed her arthritis medication, but that cost $60 they didn't have. Destiny needed to eat, but school lunch cost $3.50 a day. Most importantly, if they didn't find somewhere permanent to live soon, winter would kill them. They'd been homeless for 28 days. 28 days since the landlord changed the locks. 28 days since Jamal had to choose between paying rent or paying for Gloria's medicine. He'd chosen the medicine. Now they had neither. Jamal's phone buzzed. A text from his friend Marcus. "Bro, where have you been? Haven't seen you at school in weeks." Jamal deleted the message without responding. How could he explain? "Hey Marcus, I've been living in a car because my grandmother's arthritis got so bad she can't work, and I'm 15, so nobody will hire me for anything that pays enough to matter." He couldn't even shower regularly anymore. They used McDonald's bathrooms to wash their faces with paper towels. Jamal had gotten good at timing it, so the employees didn't notice the same 3 people coming in every morning. The hardest part wasn't the hunger or the cold or even the shame. The hardest part was lying to Gloria and Destiny every single day. "Don't worry, Grandma. I got something lined up. We'll be back in a real house soon." "It's just temporary, Destiny. Like camping, remember? This is our adventure." But Jamal was 15 years old. He didn't have anything lined up. He'd been to every fast food restaurant, every grocery store, every place that might hire someone his age. They all said the same thing: come back when you're 16. When Jamal was 12, his mom died from cancer. Before she passed, she made him promise something. "Baby," she'd whispered from her hospital bed, "take care of Gloria and Destiny. They're gonna need you to be strong." "I will, Mama." "And Jamal? No matter how hard things get, you remember what I taught you. We help people. Even when we get nothing, we help people. That's what makes us human." Now staring at those 3 crumpled dollar bills and handful of coins, Jamal wondered if his mom knew how hard that promise would be to keep. At 6 a.m., Gloria stirred awake. She tried to sit up but winced in pain. "Morning, baby," she whispered. "How are you feeling?" "Good, Grandma. You?" Gloria looked at her swollen, twisted fingers. "Oh, you know, same as always." But Jamal could see it was getting worse. Yesterday, she couldn't open a water bottle. 2 days ago, she couldn't button her sweater. How long before she couldn't move at all? Destiny woke up next. "Jamal, I'm hungry." The words hit him like a punch to the stomach. When was the last time she'd had a real meal? He tried to remember. Monday? Tuesday? The days blurred together when you were just trying to survive each one. "I know, baby girl. We're gonna get some food today. Promise. Promise." But looking at the $3.47 in his palm, Jamal didn't know how he'd keep that promise. At 7 a.m., they drove to the gas station where Jamal sometimes found day labor work. Today, nothing. The contractor who usually hired kids for cleanup jobs wasn't there. At 8 a.m., they parked behind the library where Gloria could use the bathroom and sit somewhere warm while Destiny was at school. Jamal had been walking Destiny to school every morning, telling the teachers they were staying with family nearby while their house was being repaired. At 9 a.m., after dropping Destiny off, Jamal spent 2 hours walking around looking for work, any work, cleaning parking lots, moving boxes, anything that would pay enough to buy food. Nothing. By 11 a.m., they were back at McDonald's. The same McDonald's where they'd been going every day for 3 weeks. The bathrooms were clean, the Wi-Fi was free, and if you sat in the corner booth, the employees usually left you alone for a few hours. That's when Jamal saw him. The homeless man sitting outside on the concrete, shaking from cold and hunger. His clothes were torn and dirty. His hair was matted. He looked like he hadn't eaten in days. He looked exactly like how Jamal imagined his family looked to everyone else. Jamal stared at the man, then at the money in his hand. $3.47, enough for one small meal. But for who? What Jamal couldn't see was that 6 hours earlier in a penthouse apartment across town, the homeless man had been putting on an elaborate disguise. Robert Morrison stood in front of his bathroom mirror at 5 a.m., carefully applying dirt to his face and hands. He pulled on torn clothes that had cost $200 to make look authentically homeless. "Today's the day," he told his assistant Sarah over the phone. 3 months of testing. If I don't find someone with real character today, I'm calling off the whole experiment. "And if you do find someone?" Sarah asked. "Then I'll have found the person who inherits my foundation, someone who understands what it means to have nothing but still chooses kindness." Robert Morrison was worth $2.3 billion. He'd built his fortune in tech, but lost his family along the way. His daughter Emily hadn't spoken to him in 2 years. His wife had died thinking he cared more about money than people. Now, at 55, Robert wanted to give away his entire fortune, but not to some charity organization that would waste it on overhead costs and executive salaries. He wanted to find someone with genuine character, someone who would help people the right way. For 3 months, Robert had been conducting what he called Operation True Character. Every day he dressed as a homeless man and positioned himself in different locations around the city. He'd tested over 2,000 people, college students, business executives, working families, teenagers, elderly couples, every demographic you could imagine. The results had been heartbreaking. 87% of people completely ignored him. They looked right through him like he was invisible. 11% threw spare change at him without making eye contact, like he was a parking meter, not a human being. 2% actually stopped to talk to him. But when he asked for food, they all gave the same response. "Sorry, I don't have cash for that." Not one single person had offered to buy him a meal when they clearly had little money themselves. Robert was starting to lose faith in humanity. That's why today was his last day of testing. If no one passed his character assessment by sunset, he'd give his money to traditional charities and forget about finding someone special. At 11:30 a.m., Robert positioned himself outside the McDonald's. He'd chosen this location carefully. It attracted working families, people who understood what it meant to struggle financially. As he sat on the cold concrete, Robert watched the parking lot. A broken-down Honda Civic caught his attention. 3 people inside, an elderly woman, a teenage boy, and a little girl. Even from a distance, Robert could see they were living in that car. The way they moved, the way they organized their few belongings, the careful way they counted money before getting out. This family was genuinely homeless. The teenage boy walked toward McDonald's, counting crumpled bills and coins. Robert watched him stop, stare at the money, then look back at the car where his family waited. This kid clearly had almost nothing. Robert expected him to walk right past, just like everyone else, but the boy stopped. He looked at Robert with genuine concern in his eyes. "Sir?" Jamal said, approaching carefully. "You okay? You look like you haven't eaten in a while." Robert had heard variations of this question before, but something was different about how this kid asked it. There was no pity in his voice, no condescension, just human compassion. "I haven't eaten in 4 days, son," Robert replied, sticking to his script. "Been trying to find work, but how long have you been out here?" 3 months. Lost everything. Got a daughter somewhere, but she probably thinks I'm dead by now. This part was actually true. Emily, his daughter, had stopped taking his calls after their last fight about his priorities. Jamal studied Robert's face. Not judging, not looking disgusted. Just seeing another human being in pain. "What's your name, sir?" In 3 months of testing, only 5 people had bothered to ask his name. "Robert," he answered truthfully. "I'm Jamal. And Robert, I want you to know something." "What's that?" "You matter. I don't know what happened to you, but you're somebody's father. That makes you important." Robert felt tears forming in his eyes. This wasn't part of the script anymore. This kid was treating him with more dignity than most people in his real life ever had. Jamal looked at the money in his hand, then back at Robert. "Robert, I have a question for you." "Yeah? When's the last time you had a real meal? Not scraps, not leftovers. A real meal where someone cared enough to sit with you while you ate it?" Robert couldn't remember. Even in his regular life, he usually ate alone. "I can't remember, son." Jamal made a decision that would change both their lives forever. "Come on, Robert. Let me buy you some food." Robert's heart stopped. This homeless teenager with less than $4 to his name was offering to feed a stranger. This was it. This was what he'd been searching for. But first, he had to see how far this kid's generosity would go. What happened next would be recorded by 5 different phones and shared millions of times across social media. But in that moment, it was just 2 people treating each other with extraordinary kindness. Jamal walked toward the McDonald's entrance with Robert beside him. His heart was pounding, not from nervousness, but from the weight of what he was about to do. $3.47. That was it. That was all that stood between his family and complete desperation. But looking at Robert, seeing the genuine gratitude in his eyes, Jamal knew he was making the right choice. "What sounds good to you, Robert?" Jamal asked as they approached the counter. "Son, anything. I'm not picky when I'm this hungry." Behind the counter, Maria, a 22-year-old cashier, watched them approach. She'd seen Jamal and his family come in every day for weeks. She knew they were homeless. She'd seen him count his money carefully every single time. "Can I help you?" Maria asked. "Yeah," Jamal said, looking up at the menu. "Can I get 2 McDoubles and a large coffee?" He knew exactly what he could afford. He'd memorized the prices weeks ago. "That'll be $3.50, Maria said. Jamal's stomach dropped. He was 3 cents short. He frantically searched his pockets, checking every corner for missed change. Nothing. His face burned with embarrassment. He'd promised Robert a meal, and now he couldn't deliver. "I'm sorry," Jamal whispered to Robert. "I thought I had enough." Maria watched this exchange and felt her heart breaking. This kid was literally trying to spend his last money to feed a stranger, and he was 3 cents short. "You know what?" Maria said quietly, reaching into her tip jar. "Don't worry about the 3 cents. No, ma'am, I can't let you." "It's done," Maria said firmly, punching in the order. Within minutes, their food was ready. 2 McDoubles and a large coffee. Jamal and Robert found a corner table. As they sat down, Jamal did something that shocked everyone watching. He pushed both burgers toward Robert. "Here you go, man. Eat up." "What about you?" Robert asked. "I got the coffee. That's plenty." This was a complete lie. Jamal was starving. He hadn't eaten a real meal in 2 days, but he'd made a commitment to feed Robert, and he was going to keep it. Robert stared at the 2 burgers, then at Jamal sipping black coffee. "Take one of these burgers, son. You paid for them." "I'm not that hungry," Jamal lied. "Besides, you said you haven't eaten in 4 days. You need it more than I do." In 30 years of business, Robert had never met anyone who would literally starve themselves to help a stranger. This wasn't just kindness. This was a sacrifice at the highest level. As Robert ate the first burger, other customers began to notice what was happening. An elderly couple at a nearby table, the Washingtons, had been watching the entire interaction. "Harold," Mrs. Washington whispered to her husband. Did you see what that boy just did?" "I saw it, but I can barely believe it." A group of teenagers at another table had stopped scrolling their phones to pay attention. One of them was quietly recording on her phone. "This is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen," she whispered to her friends. Robert ate slowly, savoring every bite. Not because the food was particularly good, but because someone had cared enough to make sure he didn't go hungry. "Jamal," Robert said between bites, Why would you do this? You clearly don't have money to spare. My mom always told me something before she died, Jamal replied. She said hungry people can't think straight, and you told me you got a daughter to get back to. She needs you to think straight so you can find your way back to her. Robert stopped chewing. This kid was giving him life advice while sacrificing his own meal. Your mom sounds like she was a wise woman. She was. She taught me that we help people, especially when we got nothing ourselves. That's when it matters most. Robert felt tears welling up in his eyes. In 3 months of testing, he'd been hoping to find someone with basic decency. Instead, he'd found someone with extraordinary character. Tell me about your family, Robert said. It's just me, my grandma Gloria, and my little sister Destiny. We have been taking care of each other since my mom passed. Where do you live? Jamal hesitated. He was ashamed to admit the truth, but something about Robert made him feel safe. In our car. I've been homeless for about a month now, but it's temporary, he added quickly. I'm working on getting us back in a real place. Robert's heart nearly stopped. This kid was homeless, living in a car with his sick grandmother and little sister, and he'd just spent his last money to feed a stranger. The elderly couple, the Washingtons, couldn't take it anymore. Mrs. Washington approached their table with a $20 bill in her hand. "Excuse me, young man," she said to Jamal. "My husband and I watched what you just did. We'd like to buy you both some more food." "Ma'am, that's real kind, but I couldn't accept—" "Son," Mr. Washington said, joining his wife, "you just spent your last money on a stranger. The least we can do is spend some of ours on you." Soon other customers began approaching. The teenagers bought them dessert. A businessman left $10 on their table. Maria brought over extra food from the kitchen. "I've been working here for 3 years," Maria told Jamal. "I've never seen anything like what you just did." Through all of this attention, Jamal remained focused on Robert. He made sure the older man ate first, asked if he needed anything, and treated him with complete dignity. "Robert," Jamal said as the meal wound down, "I want you to promise me something." "What's that?" "Don't give up on finding your daughter. I don't know what happened between you two, but fathers and daughters need each other. My mom always told me that." Robert was crying now, not caring who saw. "How do you do it?" Robert asked. "Do what? How do you stay hopeful when you got nothing?" "Because having nothing doesn't make you worthless. It just makes you temporarily broke. You still got love for your daughter. That makes you rich where it counts." Robert realized he wasn't just witnessing extraordinary character. He was witnessing wisdom that came from genuine hardship and genuine faith in humanity. As they prepared to leave, Robert made a decision that would change both their lives. "Jamal, I want to give you something." From his torn jacket, Robert pulled out a business card. It was muddy and worn, but still readable. "Morrison Foundation, Robert Morrison, founder." "I don't understand," Jamal said, looking at the card. "Keep it," Robert said. "And Jamal, call that number tomorrow morning. Ask for Sarah Carter. Tell her Robert Morrison sent you." "What will happen when I call?" Robert smiled, the first genuine smile he'd felt in months. "Your life is about to change, son. Everything you just showed me, the world needs more of that, and I'm going to make sure you have the power to spread it." As they walked outside McDonald's together, Robert Morrison was about to offer Jamal everything he'd ever dreamed of. But first, he needed to see if this remarkable young man's character would remain unchanged when faced with instant wealth. "Jamal," Robert said, stopping by the parking lot, "I need to tell you something important." "What's that, Robert?" Robert looked around, making sure they had some privacy. Then he pulled out his phone and showed Jamal his bank account balance on the screen. Jamal stared at the numbers. $2,300,000,000. This has to be fake," Jamal said, stepping back. "Robert, you don't have to make up stories. It's not fake, son. I'm worth $2.3 billion. Jamal laughed nervously. "Man, if you're a billionaire, what were you doing sitting outside McDonald's looking homeless?" "Testing people. For 3 months, I've been dressing like this, seeing if anyone with little would share with someone who had even less." Robert pulled out a clean business card. "Morrison Foundation, Robert Morrison, founder and CEO. I run the largest private charitable foundation in the state. I wanted to find someone special, someone with real character." Jamal studied the card, then looked at Robert's face. Something was different now. Robert stood straighter, spoke with more confidence. You're serious, aren't you? Dead serious. And Jamal, what you did there, in 3 months of testing over 2,000 people, you're the first person who passed. Passed what? The character test. You saw someone suffering and you helped, even when it cost you everything. Robert reached into his jacket and pulled out his wallet. He counted out 10 $100 bills. I want to give you this, right now. $1,000 for what you did. Jamal stared at the money, then shook his head. No, sir, I can't take that. Why not? You clearly need it. Because I didn't help you for money. I helped you because that's what people do for each other. If I take money now, it makes what I did feel wrong. Robert's eyes widened. This homeless teenager was turning down more cash than his family had seen in months. But your family needs help. Your grandmother needs medicine. Your sister needs food. We'll figure it out. We always do. What if it wasn't charity? What if it was an opportunity? I don't understand. Robert showed Jamal photos from the Morrison Foundation website, pictures of scholarships being awarded, families getting help, communities being transformed. Jamal, what you showed me today reminded me why I started this foundation. Not just to give money away, but to find people who understand what it means to lift others up. That's really nice, Mr. Morrison, but I still can't take your money. What if I told you I wasn't giving you money? What if I told you I was offering you a job? A job doing what? I'm 15. I live in a car. A job identifying other people like yourself. People who have character but no opportunities. People who would share their last meal with a stranger. Jamal was quiet for a moment, processing this. Mr. Morrison, I appreciate what you're trying to do, but I don't know anything about running foundations. I barely know how to help my own family. But you know the character when you see it. You know suffering. You know what it feels like to have nothing but still choose kindness. That's more valuable than any business degree. Robert handed Jamal the business card again. Keep this. Think about what I've said. But Jamal, regardless of whether you want to work with me or not, your family's situation is about to change. Sir, I told you, it's not charity. It's an investment. I'm investing in the most valuable thing I've found in 30 years of business. Genuine human goodness. Robert pulled out his phone and made a quick call. Sarah? It's Robert. I found him. The person we've been looking for. His name is Jamal Robinson. Yes, I'm sure. Prepare the full package. He hung up and smiled at Jamal. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. sharp, come to this address. He wrote on the back of the business card. Bring your grandmother and sister. Your life as you know it ends tonight. While Jamal returned to the Honda Civic to tell Gloria and Destiny about the strange encounter, Robert Morrison was already orchestrating the most ambitious charitable operation of his career. Grandma, I met this man today, Jamal said, sliding into the driver's seat. He says he's rich and wants to help us. Gloria looked up from where she'd been resting her swollen hands. Baby, rich people don't hang around McDonald's talking to homeless kids. You should be careful. Are we going to have a real house again? Destiny asked from the back seat, hope creeping into her voice. Jamal looked at the business card in his hand. I don't know, baby girl, but something felt different about him. Meanwhile, across town in the Morrison Foundation headquarters, Robert's assistant, Sarah Carter, was coordinating with a team of lawyers and social workers. Robert, are you absolutely sure about this? Sarah asked over the phone. You're talking about completely restructuring our entire foundation model? Sarah, I've been running this foundation for 15 years, giving money to organizations that file reports and show statistics. Today, I met someone who reminded me what we're actually supposed to be doing. While Robert spoke with Sarah, a team of investigators was already researching the Robinson family. Not to spy on them, but to understand exactly what kind of help they needed. Social worker David Santos pulled up their records. This family has been falling through every crack in the system. Jamal missed 3 weeks of school. Gloria's disability application was denied twice. The little girl is showing signs of malnutrition. This is exactly the kind of family that needs comprehensive support, said Dr. Melissa Torres, the foundation's medical director. Not just money, but housing, healthcare, education, everything. Back in the Honda Civic, Jamal was using McDonald's free Wi-Fi to research Morrison Foundation on his cracked phone screen. Says here he's given away over $500 million to charities. Jamal read aloud to Gloria. Started the foundation after his wife died of cancer. Maybe he's for real, baby, Gloria said quietly. Jamal studied both business cards Robert had given him. One showed the Morrison Foundation logo. The other had an address downtown, the Morrison Center, one of the city's most expensive buildings. That night, as they tried to sleep in the car, Jamal noticed a black sedan drive slowly past their parking spot. He couldn't see who was inside, but something about it felt purposeful. Unknown to Jamal, the car contained a team documenting their living conditions, not for surveillance, but for planning. Robert needed to understand exactly what the family required to transition from homelessness to stability. At McDonald's, manager Patricia received a phone call asking about the young man who helped the homeless customer earlier today. "Oh, you mean Jamal?" she said. "That boy has been coming here with his family for weeks. Sweetest kid you ever met, always polite, never causes trouble. Real shame they're living in that car." The caller took careful notes. At 6 a.m., Jamal stared at the Morrison Center address written on the business card. "We got nothing to lose and everything to gain," he whispered to his sleeping family. But he had no idea what was waiting for them on the 47th floor. At exactly 9 a.m., the elevator doors opened on the 47th floor of the Morrison Center. Jamal, Gloria, and Destiny stepped into a gleaming conference room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the entire city. Waiting inside was a team of professionals that would change their lives forever. "Good morning, Robinson family," said a sharp-dressed Asian woman in her 40s. "I'm Sarah Carter, director of the Morrison Foundation. Please have a seat." Around the polished mahogany table sat 4 other people: Dr. Melissa Torres, a medical director; Jennifer Brooks, head of legal affairs; David Santos, social services coordinator; and at the head of the table, Robert Morrison. But this wasn't the Robert from yesterday. Gone were the torn clothes and matted hair. Instead, he wore a $3,000 suit and carried himself like the billionaire CEO he truly was. Destiny grabbed Jamal's arm and whispered, "Is that the homeless man?" Jamal stared in shock. "Mr. Morrison?" Robert smiled warmly. "Good morning, Jamal. Thank you all for coming. I know this must be confusing." Sarah opened a thick folder on the table. "Jamal, what Robert told you yesterday was true but incomplete. For the past 3 months, he's been conducting what we call Operation True Character. We've been documenting every interaction, every test, looking for someone who embodies genuine human kindness," Jennifer added. Dr. Torres leaned forward. "In 90 days, Robert tested over 2,000 people in various homeless scenarios across the city. You're the only person who passed every single aspect of our evaluation." "I don't understand," Jamal said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Let me explain the test criteria," David said, pulling out a chart. Phase 1, recognition. Do people see a homeless person as worthy of basic human attention? Sarah continued. 87% of people completely ignored Robert. They looked right through him like he was invisible. Phase 2, sacrifice, Jennifer said. Will people give when they have little themselves? 11% gave spare change, but no one offered substantial food or sat down to share a meal. Phase 3, humanity, Dr. Torres added. Do they treat the homeless person with dignity and respect? Only 2% actually engaged in real conversation. David looked directly at Jamal. Phase 4, integrity. Do they refuse reward afterward? You're the only person who passed this phase. The only one. Gloria reached over and squeezed Jamal's hand. Her arthritis was acting up, but she managed to speak. My grandson has always been special. Even as a little boy, he'd give away his lunch to kids who forgot theirs. That's exactly what we're talking about, Robert said, his voice filled with emotion. But there's something else you need to know, Jamal. Something bigger. Sarah pulled out another set of documents. The Morrison Foundation isn't just about giving money away. We've been searching for the next generation of leaders who will distribute wealth based on character, not credentials. We've been looking for someone to eventually take over the entire foundation, Jennifer added. Someone who understands both poverty and generosity from personal experience. Jamal felt dizzy. Take over? But I'm just a kid living in a car. Exactly, Robert said, standing up and walking to the window. Most charity leaders have never experienced real poverty. They make decisions from boardrooms, never having slept in cars or counted their last few dollars. Dr. Torres opened her laptop. Yesterday, after meeting you, Robert made a decision that will restructure everything we do. I'm creating the Morrison Character Foundation, Robert announced. $100 million dedicated specifically to finding and supporting individuals like yourself. Sarah smiled at Jamal's shocked expression. And we want you to help us run it. But I don't know anything about— You know about struggling to pay for health care, David interrupted. You know about working multiple jobs while trying to stay in school. You know about sacrificing your own needs for your family. That's exactly the perspective we need. Jennifer pulled out a comprehensive proposal. We're not just talking about helping your family, Jamal. We're talking about replicating your story nationwide. The Morrison Character Initiative will identify 1,000 young people like yourself over the next 5 years, Dr. Torres explained. Each person gets full educational support, family assistance, and leadership training. Robert turned back to face them. The goal is to create a network of character-based leaders who understand both struggle and generosity. Destiny, who had been quiet this whole time, suddenly spoke up. Does this mean Jamal's going to be famous? Everyone in the room laughed, breaking some of the tension. It means your brother is going to help change the world, Sarah said gently. Robert sat back down and looked directly at Jamal. Yesterday, you gave me your last $3.47. Today, I want to give you the tools to help thousands of other kids who are exactly where you were yesterday. Why me? Jamal asked, his voice cracking. Why us? Because in 30 years of business, I've never met anyone who would literally starve themselves to feed a stranger, Robert replied. That's not just kindness. That's the kind of character that changes the world. Gloria struggled to stand, her arthritis making every movement painful. Mr. Morrison, my grandson has been taking care of me and his sister since he was 12 years old. He never complained, never asked for anything for himself. Destiny nodded enthusiastically. Jamal always gives me his food when we don't have enough. Robert's eyes filled with tears. Then you understand exactly why he's the person I've been looking for. The room fell silent as everyone waited for Jamal's response. Finally, Jamal looked around the table, then at his family, then back at Robert. If saying yes means other kids don't have to sleep in cars, if it means other grandmothers don't have to choose between medicine and food, then yes, I accept. The room erupted in applause. Welcome to the Morrison Foundation, Jamal, Robert said, extending his hand. Your real work starts now. The contracts Robert presented to the Robinson family contained provisions so comprehensive they would transform not just 3 lives, but create a blueprint for ending generational poverty across America. Everything we discuss starts today, Sarah announced, spreading documents across the mahogany table. Not next week, not next month, today. Jennifer opened her briefcase and pulled out a set of keys. We have moving trucks ready to relocate you to a fully furnished 3-bedroom apartment. You can see it in 2 hours. Dr. Torres activated her tablet showing medical appointment schedules. Gloria, we have a team of specialists standing by to begin your arthritis treatment this afternoon. Rheumatologist, physical therapist, pain management specialist. David smiled at Destiny. And there's a spot waiting for you at Riverside Academy, the best private elementary school in the city. You start Monday morning. Gloria's hands trembled as she tried to process this information. I haven't had proper medical care in 3 years. I stopped believing it was possible. Destiny bounced in her chair. Do I get my own room, with a real bed and everything? You get your own room, your own desk, and more books than you can read in a year, Sarah laughed. Jamal shook his head in disbelief. This feels like a dream. People like us don't get breaks like this. Robert leaned forward. Jamal, yesterday you proved that character isn't about what you have. It's about what you do when you have nothing. That's the rarest quality in the world. Sarah opened another folder marked Educational Fast Track Program. Jamal, we've designed a custom curriculum for you. 6 months to complete your GED through private tutoring, then direct admission to Columbia University. Columbia? Jamal's eyes widened. In New York? Full scholarship plus living expenses plus a monthly stipend for your family? Jennifer confirmed. You'll study philanthropy, business administration, and social work. Dr. Torres added, but you'll also spend summers working directly with families in crisis, learning what they need most from someone who's lived their experience. Robert stood and walked to a wall covered with photographs of scholarship recipients. Every month, you'll shadow me in foundation meetings. You'll learn how to evaluate character, how to design programs that actually work, how to spot the difference between someone who needs help and someone who deserves investment. David pulled out a comprehensive timeline. By the time you graduate college, you'll have more real-world experience in charitable work than people who've been in the field for decades. For Gloria, the support package was equally comprehensive. Dr. Torres explained, complete medical team including rheumatologist, physical therapist, nutritionist, and pain management specialist. All covered, no co-pays, no insurance battles. Sarah added, your role as community wisdom advisor means you'll counsel other families going through what you've experienced. $50,000 annually plus full benefits. Jennifer smiled at Gloria's shocked expression. Plus, we're providing a health aide to help with daily tasks while you recover your mobility. For Destiny, the transformation would be immediate. Private tutoring to catch up on any missed learning, David explained, plus enrichment programs in science, arts, music, and athletics. Dr. Torres opened her medical folder. Regular health checkups, nutritional support, dental care, vision care, everything she needs to thrive. Robert returned to his seat. And a $500,000 education trust that grows with compound interest until she's ready for college. But the real centerpiece was the Morrison Character Institute that would launch with Jamal as its founding youth director. This program will eventually help thousands of young people, Sarah explained, showing organizational charts and growth projections. Jennifer pointed to evaluation criteria documents. We're establishing assessment standards based on your character traits: sacrifice, dignity, integrity, hope, and genuine care for others. David opened his laptop to show a map dotted with potential locations. Other young people who demonstrate these qualities will get the same comprehensive support you're receiving. The community impact plan was equally ambitious. Dr. Torres explained, we're starting with your old neighborhood. Every family is still living in cars, every kid going hungry, every grandmother choosing between medicine and food. We'll find them all. Robert's vision extended far beyond individual families. Within 5 years, we want to eliminate family homelessness in this entire district. Within 10 years, we want to replicate this model in 50 cities, Sarah added. And Jamal, you'll help us identify which families need help most because you understand their situation from the inside. The business training component was designed to prepare Jamal for eventual leadership. Monthly board meetings, annual planning sessions, budget oversight, Jennifer explained. You'll learn every aspect of running a major foundation. David showed a calendar filled with conferences and networking events. Guest lectures from other philanthropists, meetings with social entrepreneurs, leadership development programs. Dr. Torres smiled. By age 25, you'll be equipped to run any charitable organization in America. But Robert's most important offer was personal mentorship. Jamal, I'll be personally available to you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Any question, any problem, any idea, you call me directly. Sarah nodded. Robert doesn't make this offer lightly. You'll essentially become his protege and eventual successor. The long-term vision was breathtaking. In 10 years, when you're ready, you'll take over the entire foundation, Robert announced. $2.3 billion dedicated to character-based philanthropy. Jamal could barely speak. You want me to run your whole foundation? Jennifer leaned forward. Robert is 55 years old. He wants to ensure his life's work continues with someone who truly understands its mission, David added, someone who's lived the problems we're trying to solve. The weight of responsibility was enormous, but so was the opportunity to help others. What if I mess up? Jamal asked quietly. What if I'm not smart enough? Robert's voice was firm but gentle. Jamal, yesterday you made the smartest decision I've seen in 30 years of business. You chose character over survival. That's not something you learn in school. That's something you either have or you don't. Gloria managed to stand, tears streaming down her face. Baby, you've been making impossible decisions since you were 12. This is just a different kind of impossible. 6 months after that life-changing handshake, the transformation was so dramatic that visitors could barely believe the Robinson family's journey. And they were just the beginning. The Robinson family's new reality was unrecognizable. Their 3-bedroom apartment overlooked the city, with Gloria finally having her own medical space where specialists managed her arthritis pain. Destiny's bedroom looked like a library exploded. Books everywhere, science kits, art supplies, and a telescope by the window. She'd gone from malnourished to an honor student, leading science clubs for younger kids. But Jamal's change was most dramatic. The skinny teenager who once counted his last $3.47 now wore tailored suits for foundation meetings. Magazine covers called him America's youngest philanthropist, but he still took the bus to visit families living in cars. Jamal had completed his GED in 3 months with perfect scores and was attending Columbia online while working full-time for the foundation. He'd identified 47 young people whose character matched his own. Carlos Martinez, 16, was found living under a bridge with his diabetic mother. Jamal discovered him sharing his meal with stray dogs at a food bank. Now Carlos studied engineering while his mother received comprehensive medical care. Aisha Williams, 17, was a single teen mom working 3 jobs when Jamal met her volunteering at a homeless shelter despite her own desperation. The foundation provided childcare, housing, and nursing school scholarships. Marcus Johnson, 15, had been recruited by gangs but chose to run basketball programs keeping kids off the streets. Jamal found him using his own shoes as prizes for kids who stayed in school. Marcus now had a criminal justice scholarship. The Morrison Character Initiative had exploded beyond expectations. The original $100 million budget increased to $200 million within 6 months, as other donors witnessed extraordinary results. They operated in 25 cities across 8 states, with partnerships signed with 50 other foundations. International inquiries came from 15 countries wanting to replicate the Morrison method. The local education impact was staggering. College applications in targeted neighborhoods increased 400%. Student volunteer hours rose 500%. Teachers reported dramatic improvements in peer support and empathy. 200 schools adopted character assessment programs alongside academic evaluations. Students learned that kindness could be pathways to opportunity, not obstacles. Economic transformation was equally impressive. 15 new businesses opened in Jamal's old neighborhood, many run by program graduates. Property values stabilized as families achieved housing security. Crime rates dropped 45%. Local food banks reported 60% increases in donations, not from wealthy benefactors, but from community members inspired by spreading generosity. Media attention created a global phenomenon. Jamal's TED Talk, The Currency of Character, had 15 million views. CNN's documentary, The $3.47 That Started a Revolution, won 3 Emmy Awards. The hashtag #LastDollarKindness generated 5 million posts worldwide. Character challenge videos trended internationally, inspiring movements in 12 countries. Corporate America took notice. 200 companies adopted character-based hiring practices. McDonald's created a $10 million Morrison Kindness Scholarship. Harvard Business School offered Morrison Character Leadership degrees. The government responded too. The Character Consideration Act was introduced in Congress. State homeless programs adopted the Morrison model. The United Nations considered character-based development programs. Grassroots changes were most powerful. Character spotting became community activities in schools. Neighbor-to-neighbor support networks formed organically. Churches partnered to identify struggling families before the crisis hit. Youth-led mentorship programs started in over 100 communities. Restaurant chains created pay-it-forward programs inspired by Jamal's story. Robert Morrison himself was transformed. He'd reconnected with daughter Emily, who now worked full-time for the foundation. He lived more simply, spoke at universities about wealth with purpose, and committed to giving away 90% of his fortune. The measurable impact was incredible. 847 full scholarships awarded, 94% maintaining 3. 5+ GPAs, 98% graduation rates versus 71% district average, 25 million in medical debt forgiveness, and 1,200 families moved from unstable to permanent housing. Local news stations ran weekly features on scholarship recipients. National magazines profiled the Morrison kids who were changing their communities. Social media buzzed with stories of young people choosing character over convenience. But the most important change couldn't be measured in statistics: a 15% reduction in neighborhood poverty, waiting lists for volunteer positions at local nonprofits, elementary students asking teachers how they could help people like Jamal did. The simple act of sharing a meal had become a symbol transcending economic boundaries. Jamal's story proved that character was the only currency that never lost value, and this was just the beginning. With Robert's mentorship and Sarah's guidance, Jamal was preparing for something even bigger, a moment that would prove the character-based approach had created something far more valuable than money, hope that could multiply infinitely. Exactly 1 year after that life-changing day at McDonald's, Jamal found himself in the same situation that started everything. But this time, he was the one with the power to transform a life. Same McDonald's, same evening hour. Jamal was there for a foundation community meeting wearing his Columbia University sweatshirt and carrying himself with quiet confidence. That's when he spotted Tyler, a young black boy, maybe 14, sitting outside counting coins with desperate concentration. Tyler's clothes were too big, his face thin, his eyes holding that careful hope of someone calculating whether they had enough to eat. Jamal's heart stopped. It was like looking at himself exactly 1 year ago. "Hey," Jamal said, approaching gently. "Are you doing okay?" Tyler looked up defensive. "I'm fine, man. What's your name?" "Tyler. Why? I'm Jamal, and I think maybe you're hungry." Tyler's pride flared. "I don't need your pity." Jamal smiled, remembering his own words. "It's not a pity. It's just what people do for each other." Inside, sharing food, Tyler's story emerged, living with his disabled uncle in their car for 2 months. Uncle was too proud to ask for help. Tyler works odd jobs for his uncle's medication, attending school when possible. "Why are you helping me?" Tyler asked. "Most people act like they can't see us." "Because exactly 1 year ago I was sitting right where you're sitting, counting my last $3.47. Tyler stared. "For real? You were homeless?" "For months. Then one day I made a choice that changed everything." Jamal pulled out a Morrison Character Foundation business card, not as recipient this time, but as youth director whose signature appeared at the bottom. "Tyler, what if I told you that tomorrow morning you could call this number and everything could change?" "Man, that's what adults always say. Things don't change for kids like us." Jamal pointed through the window where Robert Morrison sat watching with a proud smile. "See that man? 1 year ago, he was sitting outside this same McDonald's looking homeless and hungry. I spent my last money to feed him. And he was worth $2.3 billion. Tyler looked at the card, then at Jamal, then at Robert. "Are you saying this could be real?" "I'm saying kindness finds a way to come back, but Tyler, here's the secret. Even if nothing had come back to me, feeding that man was still the right thing to do." Tyler clutched the card. "What if I'm not special like you?" "Tyler, you're 14, homeless, and still going to school. You're working to buy your uncle's medicine. Brother, you're already special." As Jamal walked away, Tyler pressed his face to the window, watching Robert shake hands with his protege. Hope was contagious. The circle was complete and growing. Jamal's story proves that the smallest acts of kindness create the biggest miracles. When you have almost nothing but choose to share it anyway, you're not just helping someone, you're showing the universe who you truly are. In a world where it's easy to walk past suffering, Jamal chose to stop and share his last meal. That choice didn't just change his life, it changed hundreds of lives and started a movement that's still growing today. What if your next act of generosity is the one that changes everything? What if the person you help today becomes the person who transforms tomorrow? What if your empty pocket is hiding the fullest heart? Your last dollar might be someone's first miracle. Your hungry stomach might feed someone's hope. Share what you have because you never know who's watching, and you never know how far your kindness will travel. Tell me in the comments, have you ever helped someone when you could barely help yourself? Like this video if Jamal's story inspired you. Subscribe to Blacktail Stories for more proof that character matters more than credentials. And remember, be the person who shares their last meal.